The top stories tonight in Y News. Senator Christopher Bongo announced his withdrawal from the presidential race, leaving the Duterte administration without a candidate of its own for the May 2022 elections.
The World Health Organization cautioned that the overall global risk related to the newest variant of concern, Omicron, was very high, which could affect the path of the pandemic.
The government expressed optimism the Philippine economy will achieve targeted full-year growth this year, even with main economic hub Metro Manila still under Alert Level 2 until mid-December.
Starting tomorrow, December 1, the no work, no pay rule may be applied to unvaccinated employees who are required to work on site but refuse to undergo mandatory regular testing for COVID-19.
Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Tuesday, November 30, 2021. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. I am William Theo.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am Elsie Marcos.
First in the news, the World Health Organization warns that the new Omicron variant poses a very high risk of infection that could have severe consequences globally. Queenie Rivera details why live. Queenie, good evening. Go ahead.
William, the World Health Organization advised its members to accelerate COVID-19 vaccination coverage as rapidly as possible, particularly among high-priority groups, and to enhance surveillance and sequencing efforts. WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus warns the new variant Omicron has numerous mutations that may confer immune escape and possibly transmissibility advantage. And as a result, the likelihood of potential further spread of Omicron at the global level is high. WHO says that the risk to vulnerable populations, especially in countries with low vaccination rates, could be substantial.
The emergence of the highly mutated Omicron variant underlines just how perilous and precarious our situation is. We shouldn't need another wake-up call. We should all be wide awake to the threat of this virus. But Omicron's very emergence is another reminder that although many of us might think we're done with COVID-19, it's not done with us.
This new variant was first detected and reported in countries in South Africa. Since then, it has been found in more than a dozen countries, including Botswana, the United Kingdom, Germany, Belgium, the Czech Republic, Israel, Australia, and Hong Kong. So far, there have been no reported deaths linked to the Omicron variant. Despite the global alarm, there is still little understanding about the variant and how virulent it may be. Scientists have cautioned that it is still unclear whether Omicron is more dangerous than other versions of a virus that has killed more than 5 million people worldwide. William?
Yes, Queenie, are there any comments from WHO regarding the closure of borders for the South African countries?
Yes, William. In reference to the travel bans, WHO said that South Africa and Botswana should be thanked and not penalized for detecting and prompt reporting this new threat. Moreover, according to WHO Director General, the world needs a new accord on pandemics to prevent discouraging countries from providing such alerts. Back to you, William.
Yes, thank you. Queenie Rivera reporting live from Singapore.
Nations, including the Philippines, are free to implement precautionary measures such as travel ban to prevent the entry of more transmittable COVID-19 variants like Omicron, according to the World Health Organization country representative Dr. Rabindra Abeyasinge. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
The government has learned a lot since the onslaught of the Delta variant in the country. This is why, according to the World Health Organization country representative Dr. Rabindra Abeyasinghe, the government should cautiously prepare for the possible entry of the Omicron variant.
WHO has always said it's better to be prepared, more prepared than have regrets later. So preparedness is more important so that we do not have to regret if we didn't prepare and had a major surge. So we welcome the efforts of the government and we are supportive of them at this point of time. Given the fact that we don't know a lot about the Omicron virus, the situation is evolving very rapidly.
But to delay and prevent its entry, Dr. Abeyasinghe has said it is proper for countries like Philippines to impose travel restrictions against nations with confirmed cases of the Omicron variant.
It's up to individual countries to take precautionary measures. WHO has always advocated a risk-based approach. So each country needs to consider the risks of potential importation from countries that are already confirming this variant and take appropriate measures while we try to determine the absolute epidemiological significance of the variant and its response to the preventive and treatment protocols that we have in country at the moment.
WHO also supports the move of the government in the implementation of the alert level system. Stricter measures are allowed as part of the prevention of the spread of variants of concern like Omicron. WHO Philippines also advises authorities not to limit monitoring on nations without detected Omicron variant cases. All inbound travelers should undergo COVID-19 testing, and those positive of COVID-19 should have their samples sequenced.
Having stringent measures at points of entry, but also importantly, looking at the whole genome sequencing to detect the presence of Omicron virus, particularly from among returnees from abroad or returnees from the southern African countries. I would go to say that we should not be looking for Omicron only in countries that have confirmed the virus for now, because there are many countries that the virus may be there, the variant may be there, but have no capacity for sequencing. So any returning overseas Filipinos or foreigners coming in who test positive, I think we need to do whole genome sequencing now.
Dr. Abeyasinghe reiterated COVID-19 vaccination is not mandated, but citizens are encouraged to get their jab against the heavily mutated Omicron variant. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And the Philippines today logged 425 more cases of COVID-19, pushing the nationwide tally of confirmed infections to 2,832,734. The Department of Health, or DOH, said the latest count brought the country's active cases to 16,289. Of these cases, 47.5% are mild, 24.42% are moderate, 16% are severe, 6.8% are in critical condition, and 5.3% have no symptoms. Meanwhile, the total recoveries rose to 2,768,389 after 909 more patients recovered from the disease. COVID-related deaths, however, climbed to 48,545 with 44 new fatalities. All accredited testing laboratories in the country were operational on November 28, but 5 laboratories failed to submit data on time, the DOH noted in its report. Meanwhile, the overall global COVID-19 caseload has reached 262,208,788, while the deaths have surged to 5,207,855, according to the Johns Hopkins University. The United States is the worst-hit country with the world's highest number of cases and deaths at 48,438,037 and 778,601, respectively. In terms of infections, India follows with 34,587,822 cases and 468,980 deaths. In terms of deaths, Brazil comes third with 614,376 fatalities.
The palace admits the government is not yet prepared to declare COVID-19 Alert Level 1 in any part of the country. Meanwhile, though Metro Manila will remain under Alert Level 2 till mid-December, Malacanang expresses confidence that the country will reach the projected economic growth rate in 2021. Rosalie Cos explains why.
The government is still in the process of finalizing the parameters to determine if an area can be placed under the most lenient alert level classification. For now, no place in the country is qualified to be placed under Alert Level 1 according to Acting Presidential Spokesperson and Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles.
Yung Alert Level 1, fina-finalize pa po natin, fina-finalize pa po natin lahat ng parameters na kinakailangan para ma-consider ang isang lugar na qualified mag-Alert Level 1. So sa ngayon po, meron pa po kaming tinitweak at fina-finalize ng mga parameters. So right now, hindi pa tayo handa na mag-declare ng any Alert Level 1 sa ngayon.
Based on the IATF guidelines on the nationwide implementation of alert level system against COVID-19, areas with low and decreasing case transmission, total bed utilization and intensive care unit utilization rate will fall under alert level 1. And under the lowest classification, all establishments, persons, or activities are allowed to operate, work, or be undertaken at full on-site or venue and sitting capacity, provided minimum public health standards are allowed. Meanwhile, the palace expressed confidence that though Metro Manila will remain under Alert Level 2, the Philippines will be able to hit its target economic growth rate for 2021. The economic managers of the Duterte administration are eyeing 4 to 5 gross domestic product growth for this year.
Barring any unforeseen circumstances, kung patuloy itong pagbaba ng kaso, patuloy rin po yung pagbaba rin ng mga ADAR, ang 2-week growth rate, ang pati patuloy pa rin po yung safe reopening natin ng ating ekonomiya, then we're very confident that we will reach our growth targets.
However, the palace official once again urged the public to get vaccinated and adhere to health protocols for the safe reopening of the economy. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The mandatory vaccination for on-site workers will begin tomorrow. For unvaccinated on-site workers, the Department of Labor and Employment said no work, no pay policy may be implemented. Eileen Cerudo will tell us why.
The no work, no pay policy, the Labor Department explains, will only be applied to on-site unvaccinated workers who refuse to undergo regular RT-PCR testing.
Kung meron na siyang work from home arrangement, pwede ho siyang mag-work from home. Pero kung wala na po at kailangan talagang on-site, pwede naman siya mag-work, di ba ho? Magpa-testing lang. Now, if they still refuse that, edi kung may leaves siya, it will apply. Kung wala na, we will have to go through the no work, no pay. But if there are leaves, pero there are options naman po. They just need to, and it is required that they get themselves tested.
Dole also reiterated that the RT-PCR testing will be shouldered by the worker and not the government. This is amid the government's plan to encourage workers to get vaccinated against COVID-19. President Rodrigo Duterte is also all for making the COVID-19 vaccine mandatory, especially with the threat of the Omicron COVID-19 variant.
As a worker of government, also charged in the overall operation of the government, I may agree with the task force if they decide to make it mandatory. It's for public health. No, kung ayaw mo, huwag kang lumabas. Oo namang problema na ayaw ka magbabakuna, huwag kang lumabas ng bahay.
However, the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases explains mandating COVID-19 vaccination will depend on the decision of Congress. Acting Presidential Spokesperson Secretary Carlo Nograles said the IATF does not have the authority to require individuals to get vaccinated.
Kailangan po ng batas, no? Mas magiging mas magkakaroon ng mandatory enforcement pag meron pong batas mula sa Congress at mapirmahan ni Pangulong Duterte. So it is up to Congress to pass a law if they feel the need na kinakailangan ng magkaroon ng batas to make it mandatory. As far as the IATF is concerned, patuloy pa rin naman po yung aming pag-meeting tungkol dyan at pag-uusap namin tungkol sa sa proposal na iyan.
To further the government's intent to increase vaccination rate in the country, Interior and Local Government Secretary Eduardo Año suggested to implement strict policies for unvaccinated individuals. Local chief executives can also release directives or ordinances to convince their constituents to get the COVID-19 jab.
Hindi po naman natin i-mandatory, but at least we'll make it harder for them to live while there is pandemic. Because that's the cause of mutation, sir, kung hindi ma-achieve yung herd immunity.
Eileen Cerudo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The national government remains optimistic that it will hit its ambitious target of inoculating 9 million Filipinos during the three-day national vaccination. Janice Inhente reports why.
Out of the 3 million target vaccination, around 2.55 million Filipinos have been vaccinated against COVID-19 on the first day of the National Vaccination Days, November 29. In the official tally of the National Vaccination Operations Center, Calabar Zone, Ilocos Region, Cagayan Valley, Mimaropa Region, Cordillera Region, and National Capital are among the regions that reached over 100% of the vaccination rate yesterday. And because the daily vaccination reached over 2.55 million yesterday, according to Department of Health Undersecretary Mirna Kabutahe, the Philippines is in 5th place among the countries with the highest single vaccination rate in the world. China still leads with 22 million daily vaccination rate, India with 10 million, United States with 3.48 million, and Brazil with 2.6 million daily vaccination. But even if the government failed to hit 3 million daily vaccination, the government remains confident that the country will be able to meet the 9 million target vaccination until tomorrow, December 1.
So that may not still be the final number. So abangan na lang po natin any updates doon as we continue to receive reports from the ground. Pangalawa po, yung pag-reach po ng target, ito po ay kailangan na gawin nating lahat. Not just government, hindi lang po ito responsibilidad ng ating pamahalaan, ng ating gobyerno, pero responsibilidad po nating lahat. Yung pag-reach po ng target, common goal po nating lahat ng mga Pilipino yan.
According to the Department of Health, the problem with the walk-in policy, the delay in passing the report, and the flock of people at vaccination sites are several of the challenges, so the government's target may not be reached. DOH added some vaccination sites did not have pediatric vaccination yesterday. With this, the DOH has ordered all LGUs to allow walk-ins to the national vaccination.
So may direktiba na tayo na yung mga walk-in dapat i-allow natin. Huwag pauuwiin yung mga nakapila na hindi nabakunahan.
And VOC urges LGUs to expand venue capacity and extend vaccination hours to accommodate more vaccinees. While the National Task Force Against COVID-19 encourages the public to continuously participate in the ongoing vaccination program in order to achieve the succeeding targets. Janice Inhente, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Partido Demokratiko Pilipino Lakas ng Bayan Cusi wing expresses support to Senator Christopher Bongo's decision to withdraw from the presidential race. Nel Maribohok will tell us why live. Good evening, Nel.
Good evening, LC. PDP-Laban President Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi respects the decision of Senator Christopher Bongo to quit from presidential race. In a text message, Cusi said he is sure that Go did it for good reason and the party support the move of the senator. On Tuesday, Go announced that he is backing out from the presidential race, saying that his heart and mind were resisting and that his family was against his presidential bid.
Ayaw rin talaga ng aking pamilya. Kaya naisip ko na siguro ay hindi ko pa po panahon sa ngayon. Diyos lang po nakakaalam kung kailan talaga ang tamang panahon ko. Ayaw ko rin pong lalong maipit si Pangulong Duterte. Higit pa po sa tatay ang pagmamahal ko sa kanya. Matanda na po siya at marami na siyang naibigay sa bayan kung kaya't ayaw ko nang dagdagan pa ang kanyang problema.
According to Cabinet Secretary and Acting Presidential Spokesperson Carlo Nograles, the PDP-Laban Cusi group is set to hold a series of meetings to discuss its next move after the withdrawal of Senator Go.
This is very new. These are very new developments, no? Kaya as far as PDP-Laban is concerned, alam ko magkakaroon ng mga series of ang PDP-Laban para pag-usapan po ito at hintayin na lamang po natin yung any statement na ilalabas po ng PDP-Laban tungkol po dyan.
Senator Go initially filed his candidacy for Vice President and later on withdrew and then ran for President under the Federalismo ng Dugon Dakilang Samahan or PDDS, an allied party of the ruling party PDP-Laban. His withdrawal of his presidential bid left the party without a standard bearer for the next year's poll. Back to you, Elsie.
Thank you, Nel Maribihok, live from San Mateo, Rizal.
Meanwhile, the Commission on Elections disclosed that it can appeal to the IATF if an area is placed under a strict lockdown during the election day. Dante Amento tells us why.
In order to observe just and fair elections, the poll body will not simply allow any move to prevent Filipino voters to exercise the right of suffrage. This includes implementation of granular lockdowns to prevent people from voting or force the suspension of the elections.
Siyempre, we're discussing that possibility that some local politician might get it into their head to actually declare a granular lockdown. In that case, may recourse tayo to the IATF. Because remember, even granular lockdowns may appeal yan.
COMELEC spokesperson Director James Jimenez also says a nationwide cancellation of the May 2022 elections is unlikely amid the threat of the Omicron variant. COMELEC is closely working with the IATF for the health protocol guidelines in the upcoming elections.
We're looking at what the disease experts are saying about Omicron, and we will adjust accordingly. In any case, from the very beginning naman, alam natin that there is always a possibility that this lull that we're in right now might change very quickly. No? In fact, we're expecting a little bit of a surge during the Christmas holidays.
Jimenez added that the cancellation of election in some areas can be implemented depending on the situation.
What may be possible is that if, let's say, just the possibility, no, in one location, lahat ng BEI mo tinamaan ng COVID, wala kang ma-replace, then posible kang mag-cancel ng elections.
Election postponement can be called on the grounds of violence, terrorism, loss or destruction of election paraphernalia or records, force majeure, and other analogous causes. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority re-implements modified number coding scheme beginning tomorrow. However, it only covers private vehicles and light trucks. Asher Kadapan Jr. details why live. Yes, Asher?
In the Metro Manila Council recognizes the necessity to impose a traffic mitigation measure in the National Capital Region. With this, the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority came up with a plan of re-implementing the number coding scheme, but only to private vehicles and light trucks with respective hours of imposition. Starting tomorrow, modified number coding scheme in private vehicles will be effective during the afternoon peak hours from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Friday, except holidays, while light trucks with gross capacity weight of 4,500 kilograms and below will be banned in major portion of EDSA between Magallanes and Makati City and North Avenue in Quezon City from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. Both private vehicles and light trucks will follow the number coding scheme guidelines, where they will be prohibited to travel on the respective schedule based on the vehicle's plate endings. MMDA Chairman Benhar Abalos Jr. says this will help ease the congestion without overly affecting the routines of the commuters and operations amid the pandemic.
Ang problema namin is that ang ating public transport is only 70% at mahaba pa ang queue, ang pila. At number two, ang sasakyan mo is your own personal bubble. So mapipilitan ka mag-angkas na ibang tao. So having this in mind, nag-introduce ang grupo na why not just concentrate on the problem. And our data will show that the problem primarily is only during rush hours in the afternoon.
In the MMDA's latest survey this November, there's at least 5,000 difference in the volume of traffic today compared to the data gathered before the pandemic, while the daily average travel speed now is also almost the same as it was before, with the worst travel speed being experienced by motorists during the afternoon peak hours from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Ang gagawin na lang namin dito, ililimit na lamang namin dito sa oras na ito so that kung tatamaan ang sasakyan mo ng araw na ito, magagamit mo pa rin siya pero umiwas ka muna ng traffic sa oras ng sinasabi namin, yung rush hour. Pareho din sa number coding, kung tatamaan yung truck mo ng ganon, huwag ka na lang gumamit ng EDSA.
That's the latest for tonight, Elsie. Back to you.
Thank you, Asher Kadapan Jr., live from Quezon City.
President Rodrigo Duterte calls on Filipinos to emulate the same heroism shown by Agat Andres Bonifacio as we face a health crisis amidst commemorating the 158th Bonifacio Day. JP Nunez will tell us why.
A wreath-laying ceremony was held at the Pinaglabanan Shrine in San Juan City as the country commemorates the 158th Andres Bonifacio Day. President Rodrigo Duterte calls on Filipinos to bear the same heroism shown by Andres Bonifacio as we face health crisis due to COVID-19 pandemic.
I invite every Filipino to become a hero like Bonifacio by participating actively in our nation-building efforts, especially those challenging times when we have to secure our nation's health, safety, and wellness. In this light, I call on our kababayans to emulate Gat Andres Bonifacio's strong sense of civic duty, courage, love of country in our daily lives, even in the simplest ways. May we be challenged to give our very best for the benefit of our people and nation.
Bonifacio, known as Supremo, was said to establish the Katipunan, which then led to revolutions claiming the Philippine independence from Spanish colonization. The city of Manila and Caloocan City also held a ceremony to commemorate the heroism Andres Bonifacio made for the country. Meanwhile, San Juan City and the National Historical Commission officially opened El Deposito, which said to be one of the oldest water reservoir in the world. It was under the Pinaglabanan Shrine where Bonifacio and the Katipuneros tried to take over the Spanish water system during the Battle of San Juan del Monte on August 30, 1896.
Naging matalino si Andres Bonifacio sapagkat naisip din niya na sakupin ang isa sa mga mahalagang lugar na hawak ng mga Kastila noon, at isa nga doon ang El Deposito sapagkat ito yung pinagmumulan ng tubig. At alam natin tubig ay buhay, and he who controls the water controls the power. So this shows the intelligence of Andres Bonifacio when it comes to the revolution.
Makikita ninyo, pag naglakad kayo rito, pakiramdam nyo bumabalik kayo sa panahon ng Kastila back in 1896. So it is really a very unique experience, and we want you all to be able to visit.
San Juan citizens and neighboring residents were excited to come to see the historical water reservoir.
Nung maliit ako, hindi mo naman ito mapupuntahan. Hindi mo siya mapapasok. So ngayong in-advertise nila na open na, gusto ko rin makita kasi taga San Juan ako at never ko pa napasok ito. Part ng history ng San Juan itong El Deposito.
Although they failed, but it is the start of the revolution of the Filipino people against the Spanish oppressors. So na curious ako kung gaano na siya kaganda ngayon.
I think it would be good for everyone to see, just to experience what happened here.
El Deposito will be opened for public viewing from Tuesdays to Sundays from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. while it closes for Mondays. With its opening, Filipino people can now go back in time to the history of our independence. JP Nunez, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, released an urgent memorandum suspending the deployment of newly hired household service workers to Saudi Arabia. New guidelines for contract verification need to be finalized first before the suspension will be lifted. Eileen Cerudo will tell us why.
Blacklisted employers in Saudi Arabia are still able to recruit household service workers, the POEA reported. The agency admitted there are loopholes in the current guidelines, making it possible for blacklisted employers to circumvent. POEA Administrator Attorney Bernard Olalia said a retired general in Saudi Arabia, Ayed Al-Jalid, managed to recruit household workers despite being blacklisted. Al-Jalid reportedly used a different name in order to hire Filipino workers.
Kaya ang nangyari doon sa pinadala natin ng mga HSW sa bahay ni General Ayed, bagamat merong employer na nakalagay, hindi totoo yung employer na nilagay niya doon, at lahat ng HSWs ay pumunta o dinala sa kanyang bahay kasi nga hindi nakalagay yung address. So ang nangyari, inabuso doon, at kahit blacklisted na, nakakapagpadala pa rin dahil iba't ibang pangalan na employer ang ginagamit.
Olalia said a technical working group is already coordinating with the Philippine Overseas Labor and Office in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to draft a new guideline that would prevent loopholes for blacklisted employers to take advantage of. Recommendations for the new guidelines include adding an exact address and the requirement of a government-issued identity card to easier verify blacklisted employers.
Titignan natin kung ano yung ipinatutupad na identification system sa kanila. Pag nakita natin yung government-issued identification card nila na nandoon yung pangalan at saka exact address, yun ang gagamitin natin na requirement. Nang sa ganon, hindi basta-basta mababago yung spelling, hindi basta-basta mababago yung pangalan, at pati na rin yung address, hindi basta-basta mababago.
Apart from the names of the employers, the agency will also blacklist their exact address. Once the new guidelines is drafted and finalized, there will be a pilot implementation to check if it will be effective in preventing blacklisted employers to recruit Filipino workers.
Yung transition natin, titignan natin kung sa isang destination muna, sa isang bansa natin titignan. Pag effective yon at medyo maganda yung resulta, gagawin natin, ikakaskade na natin sa lahat. Ibig sabihin, i-mainstream natin yung ating implementation.
The said guidelines are expected to be finalized before the end of the year. Meanwhile, the household workers recruited by Al-Jalid were already repatriated. Eileen Cerudo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey decided it is time that he steps down as CEO of the social media giant platform Twitter after 16 years. In his resignation letter posted on Twitter, Dorsey stated that founder-led companies such as Twitter is limiting and becomes a single point of failure. He further stressed out the importance of a company being free from its founders' influence. Some interesting changes were implemented internally as the new CEO Parag Agrawal steps in. Parag, 37 years old, has been with Twitter for 10 years and recently was the Chief Technology Officer of Twitter. After a political turmoil forced her to resign within hours of taking the post last week, Sweden's first female prime minister has been reappointed to the top job. Magdalena Andersson was first prime minister last week. Her proposed budget was defeated and the government broken down. Andersson was appointed through a razor-thin vote in Sweden's divided parliament. Under the country's rules, a new prime minister can be elected as long as a majority of lawmakers do not vote against them. In Monday's vote in Sweden's parliament, 101 of its 349 members voted yes, 75 abstained, and 173 voted no. At a news conference after the vote, Ms. Andersson said she was ready to take Sweden forward with a program focused on welfare, climate change, and crime. U.S. scientists successfully created the first living robots known as Cenobots, which can self-replicate in a way animals and plants cannot. Arkay Llorca will tell us the details live. Good evening, RK.
Good evening, LC. Cenobots are the first to be considered as a mix between robots and living organisms. The Cenobots are also the first to achieve a breakthrough for robots after showing abilities to self-replicate and self-heal. The U.S. scientists who created the bots formed them from stem cells taken from the African frog Xenopus laevis. Developed at the University of Vermont, Tufts University, and Harvard University, the scientists pride themselves for discovering a new form of biological reproduction not known to any animals or plants. Cenobots are actually tiny blobs of cells that move by themselves, as opposed to the stereotypical image of robots made of metals and ceramics, according to Josh Bungard, robotics expert at the University of Vermont. The cells themselves are not manipulated by any means, but what sets them up to be robots is how artificial intelligence was involved in its development. The Pac-Man shape of the cells allow them to carry out codes like robotic programs do. But the Cenobots are able to carry these codes at a very significant process. For now, Cenobots are still very early technology and will not fit into any practical applications. LC scientists, however, believe that the technological teamwork of molecular biology and artificial intelligence will be used in various scientific programs and researches, including collecting microplastics in the ocean, root system studies, and regenerative medicine. LC?
RK, since the Cenobots are able to move by themselves and are believed to be advanced reproductive robots, are there any concerns raised about their development at this stage?
Yes, LC. Actually, scientists do expect the concerns surrounding the self-replicating abilities of the robots. However, LC, researchers have confirmed that the bots are completely biodegradable and fit into ethical regulations. Moreover, they are easily contained and extinguished. Back to you, Elsie.
Thank you, Arkay Llorca, live from Bangkok, Thailand.
Taiwan has been investing in smart agriculture. That is why the sector has been successful and is able to contribute to the country's economy. With the aim to spread the new technology-driven agriculture, the Taiwanese government also opened an internship program to young Filipino farmers. Amiel Pascual reports.
If in the Philippines planting rice is never fun according to a Filipino folk song, here in Taiwan, farming is easy. because of its world-renowned agricultural technology. Most of the rice fields in Taiwan are owned by small-scale farmers, but because of Taiwan's smart agriculture, labor is not expensive. Crop production is high, and the farming environment is safe and convenient. Did you know that Taiwan has 110.1% rice self-sufficiency rate despite having only 22% land area that is being used for farming? This is why the country does not need to import rice. Taiwan's dairy farming is only a small sector in its main agriculture industry. Nevertheless, it has 560 dairy farms with 136,000 dairy cows. Here in a dairy farm in Changhua, they utilize automatic milking and feeding robots. Because of this, the management and production of high-quality milk is easier. In Taiwan's desire to share its success in the field of agriculture, its Council of Agriculture and Taipei Economic and Cultural Office in the Philippines have launched an internship program for young Filipino farmers. This is in partnership with the Manila Economic and Cultural Office and the Philippine Department of Agriculture. CJ and Samuel are among the 29 Filipinos who were chosen to learn modern farming techniques and marketing strategy in Taiwan.
Sa pamamagitan po ng paggamit ng mga bagong teknolohiya, mas mababawasan po yung ating cost of production at mas mai-improve po yung produkto ng ating mga magsasaka.
Makakatulong po sa Pilipinas yung experience namin dito sa modern technology nila.
Due to the advanced technology courses offered in Taiwan universities, the number of Filipinos studying here has increased. Based on the recent report of TECO, there are more than 2,000 Filipino students in Taiwan. According to Michael Angelo, a Filipino student, he chose Taiwan because of its well-developed technology education.
Taiwan offers a lot of experience and a lot of exciting cultural differences. Taiwan is one of the most progressive countries in terms of sciences and technology education. Ang dami nila ditong mga tinuturo na hindi kagad na ituturo sa Pilipinas or hindi na i-implement sa Pilipinas. In my case, artificial intelligence technology, that's my line of study dito sa Taiwan as a master's student. Artificial intelligence technology, although it's booming around the world, Taiwan is one of the most aggressive country to study artificial intelligence.
And because of Taiwan's success against COVID-19, classes are held face-to-face. For Filipinos who are interested to study in Taiwan, the Taiwanese government offers scholarship grant for undergraduate, postgraduate courses, and Mandarin language program. Although Taiwan's visa-free entry for Philippine passport holders has been extended until July 31, 2022, entry to Taiwan is limited due to pandemic restrictions. Amiel Pascual, UNTV News and Rescue, Taiwan. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
We will leave you with the words giving glory to God from the book of 1 John chapter 4 verse 18. It says, "But perfect love casteth out fear, because fear hath torment. He that feareth is not made perfect in love." And those are the reasons behind the news, November 30, 2021. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am Elsie Marcos, live from Auckland, New Zealand, sitting in for Harleen Delgado.
Because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Barring any unforeseen circumstances, no? Kung patuloy itong pagbaba ng kaso, patuloy rin po yung pagbaba rin ng mga ADAR, ang 2-week growth rate, ang pati patuloy pa rin po yung safe reopening natin ng ating ekonomiya, then we're very confident that we will reach our growth targets.
The Metro Manila Council recognizes the urgent need to adopt a calibrated traffic mitigation measure in the NCR in order to avoid a traffic management crisis in the future.
In the past few days, I realized that my heart and my mind are contradicting my own actions. Talagang nagre-resist po ang aking katawan, puso at isipan. Tao lang po ako na nasasaktan at napapagod.